Tools you need for this job are a 1/4-inch ratchet, extensions, and a U-joint. You'll need a 12mm socket. You'll need a 10mm deep socket, and you also need a 10mm shallow socket. Straight slot screwdriver, some RTV gasket makers, some brake cleaners, some rags. For each one of these motors you'll need 8 anodes and new grommets to go with them. Optional tools include a screw or impact gun, some needle nose pliers, I used a cotter pin puller, a flexible magnet, grease, and some blue thread lock. Use a 10mm socket to remove the bolt on the top cover, and don't lose that little metal collar. Then just pull up on the plastic cover and set it aside. There's no hardware on the rear cover, just follow the direction of the arrows and lift up and it'll slide off the grommets. Okay, this is the back side of the 4.2, and pretty much all the work we're going to be doing is back here. First step, we're going to take off the ECU. The battery switches are off, so we can safely disconnect these wires. All you need to do is maybe use 2 hands, pinch right here, and you could slide it out. Pinch, slide, pinch, slide it. Okay, the ECU is held on by 4 bolts. They require a 10mm socket. The next step is to remove the ECU backing plate, but there's mounting points for several different wiring harnesses on here. Right here I'm using a cotter pin removal tool, but you could use a screwdriver or needle nose pliers, or a combination of several tools to get all these off. I'm going to take this bracket off. Some kind of electronics component. Slide that out of the way. I'm just going to put this bolt right back. There's 4 bolts that hold this bracket on, and again it's a 10mm. There we go. And that exposes 4 of the anodes that we're going to be working on. Use a 12mm socket to remove the bolts that hold the anodes onto the block. Alright. To remove the anodes out of the block, they're usually going to be stuck a little. What you could do is just put a 10mm socket onto your ratchet and turn these a little bit, and you'll crack the rubber grommet loose. You just have a little bit of build up, but not much. These are actually in very good shape. This is important to note. The rubber grommet came out with this one, but not this one. So you're going to need to make sure you use a screwdriver or a little pick or something and pull these out. You're out, you're out, you're still in there. Just take those right out. If there was any buildup or here, you'd want to clean it out, maybe even vacuum it if you had to. All right, the easiest way I've found to remove these is to put them into the vise using a 10mm socket. Just back them off. If there's any salt or build up in here, you kind of want to scrape it out, clean it out. Okay, here's what a new anode looks like, and like I said, I have a little bit of buildup on mine, but they're really not terrible. Probably could have went a little longer. When you buy these, you want to buy the anodes and new grommets. They're separate part numbers. Some of the suppliers online have them in a kit where you can get 8 of them in a clip. So we're going to screw these on, start them by hand. Okay, last step for these is put the grommets on. I'm going to put just a little dab of grease where the grommet goes. Okay, we've put new anodes and grommets into the mounting plates. I'm going to put these all in their spot. I do have a little bit of blue Loctite on these bolts, so I'm going to thread them in by hand and then use the torque gun on the lowest setting, and I'll come back and finish it up with a ratchet. That's it for the easy ones. The last four are going to be underneath each valve cover. Okay, we'll start on the left side, left valve cover. I've already taken the coil bolts off because I changed the spark plugs the other day. So, all of these fasteners require a 10mm socket. There's a couple of places you're going to want a deep well. Alright, there's two on this side that you really want to use a universal joint, and it's well, maybe even three. This side we have this bracket, which I believe just positions the engine cover on it as you're lowering it down so that you're not dragging it across everything. There's two lock nuts that come off first for 10mm socket, just like the rest of them. Then this bracket comes off. I'm going to temporarily assemble this. Put it aside. At this point, the valve cover should come out for you. Now, it's important to note here, check out on this rubber gasket. You could see where the Yamaha factory put little dabs of RTV sealant basically up and all, and there's some residue there. Here they put a dab, and here. Before I go much further, I want this oil, any oil dripping out. Now that the cover's off, you could see the last two anodes. And remember, these are 12mm. Again, we'll use our 10mm socket to break these free. Pull them out. Not bad. And not bad. I don't see anything in there that I got to clean out. These are in pretty good shape. Okay. New anodes, new grommets. Make sure that we don't have any residue from that RTV in the corners here. I could do a little brake cleaner on a rag here. I'm gonna wipe this down. The valve cover gasket is pretty trick. It fits into a groove in the valve cover. So you want to make sure that it is sitting in there properly. Also, I've already cleaned this one off and got all the excess RTV silicone wiped off. Just go around and make sure it's tucked in that groove nicely, even around the spark plug holes. And we're just going to put a little dab in each corner. Okay, we're ready to put this back in place. Make sure you have a couple of the bolts in your hand. All right, we're in the home stretch now. Need to tighten this bracket up. Okay. Put our coils back on. Leaving this harness loose will help us later reinstall the ECU bracket. Don't forget to tighten those coils back down. Okay, right side is somewhat similar. A little bit easier. You don't need the U-joint for the lower ones because the offset of the heads are different. I'm just going to pinch these so I can pull them out, get them out of the way. Let's move these coils out. Obviously I already have the bolts out of the coils. There's a bracket on the bottom that's holding, not sure what that mechanism is, but we're going to leave everything attached to it. Take the two nuts off of it and just pull it down out of the way. Okay, we have a similar positioning bracket as we had on the other. Let's take this bracket off. The last valve cover bolt is hidden behind this timing belt guard. Just remove that with a 10mm socket and you'll be able to get at that last valve cover bolt. She should be loose. Okay. Alright, just like the other side, we got the RTV in the corners that we need to clean up. 12mm socket removes the bolts from the keepers, and a 10mm in your ratchet will break them loose. Here I'm installing the new anodes with new grommets, a little bit of Loctite on the threads, and I'm officially run out of new parts to install. I've wiped down all the surfaces where the gasket's going. We put new RTV up in the four corners at the top. We've cleaned the gasket off and we're ready to reassemble. Here I'm replacing the timing belt guard, and when I took them off they had just enough clearance to where they weren't touching. That bracket we took off from the lower two valve cover bolts, tighten those nuts, and then we could start moving on to the coil packs. Just snap right back in place. Alright, that ECU bracket's next. Almost there. And that is where she wants to be. Alright, we could put this breather hose back on. We could start putting this harness back where it wants to be. Now's a good time to go around and make sure the wire harness is secured. There's at least a half a dozen clips that we had to remove or loosen in order to get access. The last item we have to put back on is the ECU. Alright, when you put these connectors back in, just trying to go in as straight as possible so you don't bend any pins. Push them in until you hear the click. Again, start it straight. Click.
Click.
And that's it. Just put the covers back on, and we've completed our full anode replacement on our 4.2 liter Yamaha. Thanks for watching.